Today we will look at some fundamentals of writing, including grammar rules. And we will look at what I'm calling grammar rules number 1. So we will look at sentence structure and particularly at sentence subject-verb agreement. So let's get started. Now, a sentence starts with a capital letter, ends with a period, or a question mark, or an exclamation mark. Now, what makes up a simple sentence? Okay, every simple sentence must have a subject and a verb, and it must express a complete idea or thought. And it must have at least one clause. We call that an independent clause. In other words, that can stand by itself as a sentence. Now, let's look at some examples of simple sentences. Simple sentence can consist of just one word. And I have some examples here. Let's see. Examples like go, run, fly, bark, bite. Notice the bark, bite, run has exclamation points. Each one of these is a sentence, even though it's just one word. It's in most one-word sentences or a command type sentences telling you to do something. Run, fly, bite. Now, a simple sentence, let's go over here on the next page, and also stop as part of a simple one-word sentence. Simple sentences can be formed also using verbs. Examples, Jack writes. The verb here is write. Vices kill. Kill is the verb. Change comes. Comes, change, okay? It rained, rain being the verb. She grew up, grew is the verb. Love perseveres, perseveres is the verb. The man stood up, stood is the verb. Now notice your verbs are all action words. They tell you they constitute action. Writes, grew, rain, stood, those are all action words. Now notice these all consist of, well, mostly 2 words, although the last one has 4 words, but they can be longer than this. They can be longer than 3 words. And here are some examples of some, they're simple sentences, and they're longer than 3 words, okay? In other words, each one of these sentences has a subject, and it has a verb, and it's longer than 3 words. You are only as good as the first impression of you. You are only as good as the first impression of you. You being the subject, or is the verb, and then the rest of it is what we call the object. It tells us what goes with the subject and the verb. Only as good as their first impression of you. Taylor Swift is one of the first singers to sell an album in its first day of release. Taylor Swift is the subject, is the verb, and then the object follows. And then we have declined the request of the arrogant client. We is the subject, have is the verb, and then the object of the we have is decline the request of the arrogant client. Now let's look at number 4. These are characteristics of simple sentences. A simple sentence could have compound subjects and compound verbs. That means the subject has more than one reference, and the compound verb then must match the compound subjects. Examples: biology and geology are both my favorite subjects in school. Now, the compound subject is biology and geology. In other words, you have two, and these we call the subjects, and these are actually nouns, and they are both, and the verb, the compound verb that goes with biology and geology is the verb are. So that's the compound verb, the compound subjects. The next example: the management and staff apologized for their misconduct. Compound subject, management, staff, two things. The compound verb, apologized for their refer to management and staff. Okay. Both brother and sister play computer games after school. Compound subjects, two entities here, two nouns: brother, sister. Verb, play. Right? He displayed and sold the limited edition robots for a smaller price. Compound subject, he displayed and he sold. So that's the compound subject. And he displayed and he sold the limited edition. So displayed and sold are actually verbs, but it refers to two things that he did. Did the display and then he sold. Next one: the dancers and the singers performed their heart out last night during the concert. What is the compound subject? Dancers, singers. Compound verb, performed. Okay, that verb goes with the dancers and the singers. And the last one: both the movie actors and the theater actors performed and executed the same story magnificently. So the compound subject is the movie actors, the theater actors. But the compound verbs here, we have both performed and executed. All right, now let's look at some more. I think we have some more sentence examples here. Here's some more sentences. The fat cat sat on the mat. Okay, so the subject is the fat cat. What did he do? He sat. The object that he sat on is the mat. So that's the object. Where do you live? The subject is you. Okay, and live is the verb. You live where? The object is really coming first. My dog is very clever. So the dog here is the subject. The is the verb. Look on top of the refrigerator for the key. So look on top of the refrigerator for the key. That's like telling you, you look. Okay, so you is like understood, and look is the verb. Okay. I am out of paper for the printer. I is the subject, am is the verb. Will you help me with the math homework? Will you help me? You, subject, help, verb. The music is too loud for my ears. Music, subject, is the verb. Now here's one with exclamation point. That is a sentence. Happy birthday with the exclamation point. That's the same category if you said help or stop. That's those kind of expressions are telling you to do something. Now every sentence must have a subject and a verb. Now I've been referring to object, which is the action of the subject and the verb, but that's optional. But and when we say an imperative sentence, that's a sentence given a command, like stop, look. Okay. In that case, the subject is understood because, like, for instance, stop, that means you stop. Okay. John teaches English. John is the subject, teaches is the verb. Here, John is the subject, teaches is the verb. No object. Here, the object is English. So you see the object is optional. Now, this is something we want to make sure you understand. The subject and verb must agree in number. That is, if the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is plural, then the verb must be plural. Okay, now let's take some examples. John works in London. John is a singular subject. Works is the singular verb. Okay, so you say John works. But if you had a plural subject and with work, you would say they work. They is a plural subject, and then work is the plural verb. Another example. That monk eats once a day. The monk is the subject, eats is the verb. This is singular subject, singular verb. If we say monks, now that's a plural subject, when the verb becomes eat. Monks eat every day. When you join the subjects by and, that's plural. John and Mary. That subject is John and Mary. That's a plural subject, and the verb is work. Work in London. Most people eat 3 meals a day. People eat. You wouldn't say people eats, because this refers to, it's singular in terms of the word people. So people eat. Like you would say, they eat, but she, singular would be she eats, okay? Now, when 2 singular subjects are connected by or, use a singular verb. Or if it's either or neither nor, the singular subjects are connected by or, either or, neither or, then you use a singular verb. And we'll see some examples of that later. Okay. John or Mary. That's an example. Using the or, singular, John or Mary, singular verb is. We wouldn't say John or Mary are, because John is, Mary is. So when you connect them with are, it becomes singular verb is. Either, now here's the either or. Either coffee or tea is fine. So either or is, that's the singular verb. Now with neither, neither nor. Neither John nor Mary was late. So using neither nor, you use singular verb. So neither John nor Mary was is the singular verb. Now let's look at some examples, and I'll go through some, and then I'll send you some to do as homework. All right. Now, this is an exercise on subject-verb agreement. Remember, singular subject, singular verb. Plural subject, plural verb. Now, you are to choose the correct form of the verb that agrees with the subject. Annie and her brothers, would you say is at school or are at school? Now, notice this Annie and her brothers. Let me just underline that. That's plural, right? So Annie and her brothers, that's plural, or at school. So we would, let me just put that bold. That's the answer. Annie and her brothers are at school. Plural subject, plural verb. And notice when you say it, you can tell from the tone of what you say that it doesn't sound right. Annie and her brothers is at school. It doesn't sound grammatically correct. All right. Now here's an either or. What do we say about either or? We said either or, singular subject, singular verb. So either my brother or my father. So that's singular because it has either or. And we would say is, put that in bold, is coming to the meeting. That's a singular verb, is, it goes with the either or. Okay, the next one is a or. And remember, the or is a singular subject. And you must use a singular verb. So the dog or the cats is outside. The dog is outside, or the cats is outside. Right? Now this one is actually, this one should be are, and the reason I put is here because it's are, but cats is a plural, and a plural subject would have a plural verb. So we put the plural verb for the last one. We wouldn't say cats is, we would say cats are. So let's put are, that would be the answer. Now the or, we said was singular, but cats is plural. Okay, so let's just take that off. So the dogs or the cats are outside. Because even though it's an are, and we said are is singular subject, singular verb, but part of this are phrase has cats, and cats is plural. So we would say cats are, not cats is. Now the next one is a either or. Either or, singular, verb singular. Either my shoes or your coat is, so that would be is, always on, either my shoes or your coat is always on the floor. Right? Next one, George and Tamara, we use doesn't or don't want to see that movie. Now that's plural, so a plural, George and Tamara does. So doesn't would be the answer. George and Tamara doesn't. George and Tamara don't want to see that movie. Okay. Doesn't would go for the singular. Don't would go for the plural. George and Tamara do not George and Tamara does not. So this would be don't. George and Tamara don't want to see that movie. Next one, Benita doesn't know the answer. Benita don't know the answer. Benita is singular. So you would say Benita does, not Benita don't. So Benita doesn't know the answer. One of my sisters is or are going on a trip to France. One of my sisters, one, that's singular. So one of my sisters is singular verb, going on a trip to France. Number 8, the man with all the birds live or lives on my street. So the man is the subject, that's singular. So you would say the man lives. All right, just like to say she lives, he lives. So the man with all the birds lives. That's the singular verb. Next one, the movie, including all the previews, take or takes about 2 hours to watch. The movie is the subject, that's singular. Movie takes. So movie, singular, singular, verb, takes. How would that read? The movie, including all the previews, takes about 2 hours to watch. Number 10, the players as well as the captain wants to win. The players, that's plural subject. So the players want to win. So that would be plural. Now, I will send you the remaining of these exercises for you to practice on, okay? Make sure you read what I had before of the rules. In fact, I will email you this, and this session is being recorded for YouTube. So it will be on YouTube, plus the session itself. This whole exercise that we went through, including the rules, will be emailed to you. Okay. Be sure and call me if you have any questions on anything that we went over. All right. So long. See you later.